And Brandon, let's move on into the third topic, final topic we're going to look at before we make our pickaroonies for week 7 in the NFL. And we are looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this is a team, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because a lot of people expected the Jaguars to be better than they are right now. They are a 3-3 club after the first 6 weeks of the season. And really, this is a team that some people had as their Super Bowl pick. I had them as it. I gave them the old kiss of death, and it looks like it may be coming up to catch them as they are 3-3. Just to give people perspective, and I know our predictions are wrong at the beginning of the year, but if we were going off of my predictions, the Jaguars would be 6-0 and then become 7-0. After this week. So that's kind of the expectation that I had for them at the beginning of the year. But the question I want to ask you, kiss of death or not, will the Jaguars miss the playoffs, or are the Jaguars going to miss the playoffs this season?
I'm going to say they're not. I'm going to say they're not because of the division that they're in and the remaining games that they have on their schedule. I'm gonna say that they're not, but that they're not going to miss the playoffs. They play Houston this weekend at home. The Houston offensive line is not good, and you look at what has been a really hard time for Watkins. It's been a terrible time for him. He's struggled tremendously. It's a team that Jacksonville will, I think, be able to easily thrive on from a defensive standpoint. This is going to be now Houston twice on their schedule. Mm-hmm. They have the Colts twice still to play. They have Tennessee again, and I know that they lost to Tennessee. It was a 9-6 game. It was a 9-6 game. If Jacksonville can bring some offense and the defense shows up, they should beat Tennessee. So that could be, just between those games, that could be 4 wins. Right there. You play Buffalo. Buffalo is showing up at times, not at others. Miami, Washington, and then Pittsburgh and Philly. But right now, what I'm really worried about this defense. I'm saying that, yes, they'll make the playoffs. It's more because of the division they're in, not because of how good the team is. Because the team lately, they've been garbage. Mm-hmm. They have been garbage. They have allowed 26 points in their 3 losses. And, again, one of them, they only allowed 9 points. Their last 2, they allowed 30 points to Kansas City, 40 to Dallas. I know with Kansas City, at least one of them was an interception return for a touchdown, but that gets to the other point. Blake Bortles has been bad. Not poor, he hasn't been great. No, he's been bad, B-A-D. And that is something that needs to be able to change. I'm surprised that Jalen Ramsey hasn't come out and said, I don't know how they call him, a quarterback. He would if he wasn't on his team. But since he's on his team, he has to refrain from saying anything. But Blake Bortles threw 9 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Mm-hmm. He is very careless with the football. He's been very careless with the football. They've not had a good running game. That is something that's different from last year. Leonard Fournette, for the most part, was healthy last year. Yeah, there were a couple of bumps, but for the most part, healthy. Ran the ball well. Workhorse. This year, not healthy. Not healthy at all. TJ Yeldon has been in there, but he has not even gotten to nearly the point. He hasn't come close to the point where they were in running the football last season. Mm-hmm. So those are the things that are really killing the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. If they don't turn it around, they won't make the playoffs. But again, I think that they'll be able to turn around just enough, especially due to their schedule, where they will make the playoffs. Having Houston and the Colts and Tennessee, Jacksonville is a lucky team, because if they had almost anybody else, they wouldn't make it. but I think they will due to the division they're in and the rest of their schedule.
See, I'm on the other side of you, where I'm not ready to say definitively that they are going to miss the playoffs, but I'm looking at the schedule ahead going, all right, you got to start winning, because like the thing that perplexes me about this team is how you go out and you beat the Patriots. And of course, it could have been just, hey, a statement game. We want to prove to you that we should have beaten you last year. So they played up a little for that one at home. But they win that game by 11. And then they go 1-3 in their next 4 games. And I look at it, and some of the games that I look at, maybe not week 7, but it could be week 17. I think one game against Houston could be a loss for the Jaguars. Then I look at the Colts, and the only reason I say the Colts could get a win over the Jaguars is because usually this division plays tough against each other. Just look at that Tennessee Jacksonville game from week 3. Right now I'm thinking that the Texans and the Colts both get one game on the Jaguars, with that Colt game not being super confident, but I'm still going to say a possibility. So there's 2. Then I look at the Steelers. I think the Steelers are only going to get better from here, especially if they keep Le'Veon Bell. I'm going to give that primetime Sunday night win to the Steelers. And then for week 8, you've got the Eagles, which that is going to be in London. But right now, I kind of feel like the Eagles are kind of on a little bit of a roll and that they could possibly win that one. And just with 4 games, and I'm not even putting in the Redskins and the Dolphins, which are 2 of my maybe games where, yeah, do I think the Jaguars could win those? Yes. I mean, the Bears should have beaten the Miami Dolphins this weekend, and they didn't. So, I mean, really, the Jacksonville defense should be able to do good things against Brock the Cockadoodle-Doo, because he's still in the NFL. But there's a possibility that maybe the Redskins or the Dolphins upset Jacksonville. My point is, I'm just picking out 4 games the rest of the way. In my mind, if this team loses even 4 games the rest of the year, that already will put them at 7 losses. 9-7 will not be enough for this team to make the playoffs based on how I've seen other teams play so far in this year. So for me, I feel like the only thing that is going to help the Jaguars into the playoffs is if they go on a win streak, and they go on a win streak right now. I mean, they're coming off of a loss where we're talking about Dallas coming into this game, how bad they are. They don't have this, they don't have that. Jason Garrett should be fired. And then they go ahead and win 40-7 against Jacksonville. This is a team that right now I'm hitting the panic button, because if they don't start to win games, they're going to miss the playoffs.
Well, Ricky, before I say my next, I've got to apologize yet again. I don't know, I must be off on my game tonight, but I combined Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins and said Watkins. But I meant
Deshaun Watkins
when I was talking about the quarterback for Houston. But see, Ricky, now I don't agree with you, though, is that you say 9-7 is not going to be enough to be a playoff team. Yeah, it will. Yes, it will. In this division, yes, it will. They will win the division at 9-7. They will. It doesn't matter, if they have the most wins in the AFC. They just have to win that division, which will be simple. The Colts are 1-5. They're not going to make some extraordinary comeback. They're not going to. They don't have enough firepower, especially if you have T.Y. Hilton out for the rest of the year. Their defense continues to give up a ton of points. That's just not going to happen. The Houston Texans, you look at them. When is enough going to be enough with Deshaun Watson taking a huge hit that knocks him out for a while? I mean, he has taken so many hits this season. I would hate to see that, because he had the terrible injury last year, but I would hate any time an injury. It's terrible for a guy, but I mean, they have allowed so many big hits against this guy. Their offensive line is bad. They don't have a running game. Their wide receivers are great when Watson's able to get them the ball. So their defense has been up and down. Their defense this past week was good, made some big plays, allowed them to win the football game. So that was huge. But And then who's the final team? Tennessee. Tennessee scored 0 points this last weekend at home. We had a commenter who I went back and literally laughed at the comment when the commenter said, Have you seen the Tennessee Titans record at home? No, I haven't, but I know what it is now. It has at least one loss. They had 0 points. So my whole thing is that they're not going up against difficult teams in their division right now. They're not.
Mm-hmm.
The Colts, they can only afford 2 more losses to be 9-7. And then I know that the rest of them are 3-3 as well. But I see many more good things coming for the Jacksonville Jaguars and things that they can straighten out to be able to get to the top of this division. For the Tennessee Titans, I'm already going to throw them out the window. They don't have enough offense. They have way too much inconsistency in the offense.
Mm-hmm.
The Houston Texans, they have the offense. Can they shore up a couple of holes on the offensive line to give Deshaun Watson the time he needs to get the ball to his receivers? Can they open up a couple of holes for Alfred Blue or Lamar Miller or Deonta Foreman, if he comes back this season, to be able to run and break a couple of big ones? So there's a little bit more hope with Houston than there is for Tennessee right now in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
The Jacksonville Jaguars, they have, I think, a better opportunity to get to the top of this division. Right now, I have them, for the rest of the season, I have them losing to Philly, losing to Pittsburgh, for sure, and then possibly losing to Washington. I have them beating Buffalo. I have them sweeping Houston. I have them beating Miami, and I have them sweeping Indy. Why wouldn't they? Why would they not? I mean, if you look at the game, and again, I say this all the time, so I don't know why I'm saying it, but you look at what they did last year in Houston. They embarrassed them.
Mm-hmm.
Embarrassed them. But this year's a new year. I still just don't see enough from those other teams for them to be in a better spot at the end of the season than Jacksonville. And I'm not by any means saying that if Jacksonville gets into the playoffs, they make a run. I don't necessarily know they would, or believe they would. But I think of all these teams right now, Jacksonville's in the best spot to be able to win this division.
Here's the one thing I will say is you are right. The only way they are getting into the playoffs in my mind is winning the division, because the way I've seen, I'm going to say the Dolphins loosely, but more importantly, the Ravens and the Chargers, those are probably going to be your wild card teams. Like the Ravens, the Bengals, the Chargers. I throw Ravens and Bengals because probably if the Ravens win the division, the Bengals would be the wild card team. To me, it's looking like, I mean, of course, you could be sitting there going, Ricky, you're overreacting. But at the same time, this is a team. Yes, I know the loss to Leonard Fournette probably helped this happen in a sense, but like this is a team that this weekend is, to me, the most important. Like it's kind of like a couple weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago when 2 weeks ago when the Vikings played the Eagles, and one of our listeners that I follow on Twitter, I think it was Anthony, tweeted out that this is like a must win for both teams. And for the Vikings, it kind of was, because if we weren't, we would fall to like, what would it be, like 2-4 or something like that. And we wouldn't have been as good, or 2-3 going into the game against the Cardinals. And we won that game. Jacksonville's in a similar boat. I feel like this week against Houston is a soft must win for them, because if they don't win this game against Houston in Jacksonville week 7, then that panic button even gets louder in my mind, because you've lost another divisional game. You will then be 0-2 in the division. I kind of agree with you. I know I said that, the Colts could possibly beat them, but I'm going to fall back on that. I'm leaning towards Jacksonville sweeping the Colts with what I've seen from them this year. But it just, to me, the games I circle this week, next week. So Houston, Philly. Then I look at Pittsburgh, I look at Tennessee, well, basically the rest of the games then. Tennessee, Washington, Miami, and Houston. Like, I know you're sitting there going, well, Ricky, that's most of the freaking schedule. You're just looking at the whole rest of the year, and I guess you could say that. But with the opponents that they have, I wonder if it's going to be something where Jacksonville fans at the end of the year look at it and go, man, if we would have just beat that Dallas team like we were supposed to, or beat that Tennessee team like we were supposed to, we would be in the playoffs right now. That's what I feel. And I feel like if Jacksonville does miss, it's not going to be by much, and could be typical Jacksonville fashion from their past of, I wouldn't be surprised, comes down to game 16 in Houston, and the Jaguars lose and Houston wins the division and Jacksonville is sitting at home. That's what I think it could come down to, but I do think that if they do miss, Jacksonville fans will look at it and go, man, if we would have, that 9-6 game, if we would have won that, we would have been in. Oh, if we would have beat Dallas wasn't that good, we would have beat them. That is going to be the storyline if Jacksonville misses the playoffs.
Well, here's my last two cents.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have Leonard Fournette right now, right?
Yep.
So let's say he doesn't come back till week 10. But then he does come back week 10, and then he's fully healthy. He's fully ready to go. You've got from week 10 to week 17 for Leonard Fournette to put his mark back on the NFL and get, position himself back as one of the elite runners. And if he's able to do that, that's going to take pressure off of Blake Bortles. He's not going to feel like he has to throw as much. That's been one of the problems, that Blake Bortles has thrown the ball too much. They're not a swinging around the yard type of team.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been. They've been a team that has relied heavily on the ground game. And since there hasn't been that, I mean, their highest rushing game from one individual, and that was T.J. Yeldon, week 2 against New England, 58 yards. 58 yards. That's not going to blow anybody away.
Mm-hmm.
Not one 100-yard rushing game from a single player for Jacksonville yet this season. You get Leonard Fournette back, he could do that. He's got multiple games he could do that. And if he's able to do that, if he's able to have some really good rushing games, that takes the pressure away from Blake Bortles. He doesn't have to throw it as much. He doesn't feel like he has to squeeze it into tight windows and force the ball to receivers and get back to where they kind of were last season, where things were kind of flowing because they had a good balance. The defense was good, and that's the third and final thing. Their defense has to step up. Their defense has to step up. They allowed 30 points or around 30 points to Kansas City. They allowed 40 points to Dallas. They allowed 40 points to a Dallas team that doesn't have a blow-you-away offense.
Mm-hmm.
They have 40 points. This defense, in my opinion, is to shut up and stop talking and make it work on the field and show people what you're made of on the field. It's cute for a while when you're calling other people trash, but then you should look internally and look how bad you've played and shut your mouth and actually start playing, because that's the problem with Jacksonville. Is they've been a little cocky. They were cocky at the beginning of the season, and they had reason to. They were 3-1. Well, now you're 3-3, and you're coming off of 2 ugly losses. Shut up and do your job, and that's what they need to do. And once they do that, then you can talk all you want. But until then, don't. It's kind of like with Odell. I understand there's frustrations. No need to talk about it to the media. Keep it internal. Keep it internal. Go out, do your job, and be done with it. I think those are the things right now, Jacksonville, they definitely need to fix. And they're all fixable. They're all fixable. They're all things that we've seen them do effectively. We saw it last season. That's why they had such a good run. But the reason they had that good run, it was primarily that defense. So that right now is the biggest thing for me. If the defense can start making some more plays, get a couple of interceptions, return them for touchdowns. That's what we haven't seen with Jacksonville this year. They haven't been a big scoring defense. Let's see if they can do that.
Yeah, and my final scent is going to be Leonard Fournette. Like, when he comes back, he is going to need to be the shot in the arm that this team has. And I seen something on the SB Nation site for Jacksonville about Leonard Fournette that there's a possibility he might be okay for this week, but it looks like everyone's looking at that Week 10 game to be the target game that Leonard Fournette comes back, so they could be without him for the next 2 weeks. But Jacksonville fans, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section. Are you guys going to miss the playoffs? How worried are you? Where's your meter right now on we'll do 1 to 5. 5 being the most worried, 1 being not worried at all about your team missing the playoffs. Let us know what you guys think down below in that comment section.